This is Still Here, Still Queer, Now What? Your companion through queer midlife. I'm Dr. Paul Taylor-Pitt, and I'm the author of Still Here, Still Queer, Now What? The book, coming everywhere 21st of October, 2026. What am I doing? So it's just after 7 a.m. on Monday, the 8th of June, and for some reason, I don't know why, let's discuss it. I thought, do you know what? This week I'm just going to record the podcast and release it the same day. What was I thinking? I have no idea. Just unpacking it for a second. Firstly, it means I'm still half asleep. I'm midway through. It's still the first coffee, so it hasn't quite kicked in yet. I'm in my pajamas, which I'm not actually mad about, because obviously they are beautiful pajamas. This is another reason why it's good for you to look at the video version, not just the audio version. But I'm just questioning my choices. This is not a current affairs podcast. There is nothing that I'm going to be talking about that needs a same day release. But I just had it in my head. I thought, oh no, that's easy. I'll just get up in the morning and do it and then release it. Also forgetting that it's now a video podcast. I don't know why we're not calling them vodcasts. Maybe that, well, obviously, because it's a stupid name. But yeah, I think I was still stuck in old school podcasting mode where I just thought, oh, I'll just get up and do a voice note into my phone and then upload it, forgetting, no, now podcasting is a job. Now podcasting needs a backdrop. It needs lighting. You know, I'm sitting here in Madonna levels of lighting in my pajamas. But it is kind of intriguing to play with this technology and the fact that, you know, what a time to be alive. The fact I can just get out of bed, come and record a podcast, and it's out there on the internet, you know, and this is what I'm doing with it. You know, this is what I'm choosing to do with it. It kind of reminds me of maybe like 15 years ago, maybe a bit longer than that, when, you know, people started, a lot of people started getting smartphones, not just the nerds. And really we're just using them to send each other dick pics. And I thought, wow, all that technology, all the research, all the decades of thinking, and that's what we're doing with it. And here I am now recording a video podcast in my pajamas. And what am I going to talk about? I mean, good stuff, but nothing urgent. You know, this is not electoral dysfunction with Beth Rigby. Although I would love, one day I'll tell you about the times I've had dreams about Beth Rigby. But we'll save that for another episode. So yeah, it is making me think as well, what can I do with this technology? And so far I'm drawing a blank, but you know, the coffee hasn't kicked in yet. I am quite old school with podcasts. I do think that they are primarily a audio experience. And also I'm not hosting a Saturday morning TV show. You know, it's not a case of like, you know, phone in now. But then also you could technically, if we arranged this, we could do it like that. So there's all kinds of things that I think, maybe I'm just at the boundary of wondering what we can do with this format of podcasts. And so now this is going to sound incredibly cheesy. What's your thoughts? You can email me, paul@stillherestillqueernowwhat.com. And you can also WhatsApp the pod. Like, this is a new thing. I realized in the last episode, I mentioned it kind of right at the end. You're probably supposed to do it right at the beginning. And even now we're like almost 5 minutes in and I haven't mentioned it. But you can WhatsApp the pod. So you can send me a WhatsApp message on 07375 123 And if you fancy it, you can send me a voice note, like just record a voice note and then put it in the WhatsApp and I'll play it on the podcast. I mean, I'm open for anything at the moment. I'm here at 7 a.m. in my pajamas. So I think all of that is really just a long rambling way of saying I didn't plan my time very well. And a week is a long time in Pride Month. There's a lot going on. It's nice. It's good. It just feels like it all happens at once. It's like, why can't we just have a Pride year where all these things get spaced out? But obviously, every day is Pride Day. Yeah, lots going on. Last week, Dan and I went to see a screening of the film Pride at Soho House. I love the film Pride. And also I realized I've only ever seen it once. We went to see it when it first came out. We saw it in Barbican, and there was a Q&A with the directors. It was very beautiful. I remember just sitting there like covered in tears. And the same thing happened again. And Pride just has this amazing ability to make me cry. Like there's so many moments where I just felt myself going, "Oh, I'm going to ugly cry in a second." But I think it's a beautiful film. And I hadn't realized until afterwards, because I thought, look, they've got all those amazing stars. They've got all those fantastic, like big name people who were in that film. And would that happen now? I like to think it would. But the film itself, even though it's telling the story of a particular point in time, I mean, I was about to gay-splain Pride for you, but just in case you're one of the few people who hasn't seen the film, it's the story of Mark Ashton and Lesbian and Gays Support the Minors, and all of the fantastic activism that was going on through places like Gays the Word at a very different time when the government was attacking the minors and the government was attacking queer people. And so Mark and his colleagues decided, actually, let's support the minors. And then the minors ended up supporting us back and marched in Pride alongside with us. Anyway, that's the story of Pride. Spoilers, that's how it ends. So it's of its time, but also it was made in 2014, which is wild. I can't believe it's 12 years old. And 2014 feels like a different time. 2014 feels like, oh yeah, of course Pride would be made back then because people were on our side. And I'm not sure that so many people are on our side now. So yeah, it was a moment. And maybe that's why I was also crying, because it was a moment. It feels like films like Pride had a place in time that I think we've already gone past. So it did make me, it made me think about where are we going? And then, like, completely unrelated, nothing to do with that, but Dan and I have been watching Grey's Anatomy. It's a long story. Dan had surgery a couple of months ago, and so we've been like sort of taking it easy since then in a lot of ways. And we wanted something just to be like calm for the brain. I don't know why, but we chose Grey's Anatomy. So we started watching it from the beginning. I'm sure there's something there about surgery and drama. Anyway, we just watched an episode last night where they start talking about Twitter, and Miranda Bailey starts live tweeting her surgery, and everyone's going, what's Twitter? What is this? And she's live tweeting her surgery, and hospitals from across the country are following along and they're responding in real time, and doctors are saying, yeah, this is amazing. And it made me feel 1,000 years old, because I think, oh, I remember when Twitter was good. I remember when I would go to a conference or I'd be at an event and I'd be live tweeting and people would be joining in and we'd be having conversations. I haven't live tweeted anything for years. And in some ways, it's quite a relief that you don't have two jobs. You can just enjoy something without live tweeting it. But also, it really made me feel a bit sad for social media. Social media back then was really good fun. It was just, here's a picture of my breakfast. And then, I've got friends who I met through social media because it was a place where you could believe that someone was acting in good faith. In the Grey's Anatomy episode, they're having a problem with the surgery. Something goes wrong. And they get a tweet from another hospital that says, hey, why don't you try this? And so they go, okay, yeah, let's just do that. And they end up like taking out his liver or something. Imagine doing that. I mean, of course, that's not real, but imagine even the idea of that in 2026, that you would be halfway through surgery and just a random person would tweet and you'd go, okay, let's do that. There were no sock puppet accounts back then. There was no one pretending to be someone they're not. There was no, it just felt like a different time. And I didn't realize that at 7:10 on a Monday morning, I'd be feeling nostalgic for Twitter. But I guess what it reminded me of, and maybe what Pride, the film, reminded me of, was what happens when people come together to do something positive. And at the moment, the world doesn't feel like we're there anymore. I hadn't used Twitter for a long time. I refuse to call it X. But when I look at it, it's just awful. It's awful. It's just people arguing. And so, yeah, where am I going with this? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe it's one of the, like, I'm not at all nostalgic. I think nostalgia is a prison, as I've mentioned before. But going forward, I would love there to be some kind of spaces where we could just be a bit more together, a bit more supporting and uplifting of each other. And maybe that's what Pride Month is about. We also last week went to see End of the Rainbow at Soho Theatre in Walthamstow with Jinx Monsoon playing Judy Garland. I'm not going to gaze-explain Judy Garland's life to you, but what an amazing production. Again, very moving, incredibly powerful, very, very well done. Jinx Monsoon playing Judy Garland really at the end of her life, although she didn't know it was the end of her life. It's the story of the run of shows that she's doing in London when really she's, again, at the height of her alcohol and drug addiction. And yeah, what an incredible performance, a character study of addiction. And making me realize that it's something in our community that we absolutely don't talk about enough. I know that there are people and organizations who are trying to change that. People like Mark and You Are Loved, who are doing amazing work around raising the conversation about chemsex and suicide risk in our community, but not enough people having conversations about this. And so it really made me think about how to be a bit more of an active part of that conversation. And how stories, the reframing of those stories, like I guess for so many of us, well, for me anyway, I'm going to own it. You know, Judy Garland is just this kind of like camp, tragic figure, this person who becomes shorthand for queerness, and actually watching the production and seeing someone just unraveling. It's incredibly sad. And yet we sometimes then caricature that as, oh yeah, Judy Garland, so gay, when actually complex person, go through lots of stuff. Alexis Gregory, a wonderful writer and actor, is on tour at the moment with a play that he wrote called Smoke, which is a one-man play about someone who's just unraveling through a history of drug use and psychosis and what happens in our community when someone is going through that, and the exclusion that happens, the loneliness that happens. I was lucky enough to be on a discussion panel that's happening on that tour. At the end of each performance, there's a panel that was convened by You Are Loved for people to talk about different aspects of our community in relation to some of the content. And so the panel I was on was around aging in our community, which again, something we're not talking about enough. We need to talk about a lot more. Alexis is still on tour. He's still performing the play. So if you get the opportunity to go and see Smoke, it's a fantastically provocative piece about isolation and exclusion and drug use. And we just need to talk more about it. So yeah, that was my week in Pride. A lot of stuff, a lot of things that make me think, and what a joy to have access to this kind of art that makes you think, that holds up a mirror to us as a community. Something else that I enjoyed last week as well, which I haven't yet read, but I'm working my way through it. I'm just going to show it to the camera because it deserves it. This is a book called Feast by Catherine Kurtz. Catherine is a friend of mine and we share the same agent, the wonderful Abby. It's not a queer story, but I'm going to plug it on the podcast anyway because it deserves it, because Catherine is a wonderful, wonderful person. And the book itself, I read one chapter and then stopped because I was getting too far into it already. But it's the story of Mina in 19th century London. And Mina is a girl with this gift. She has this incredible supernatural sense of taste. She can taste the truth. And apparently, I'm not going to give anything away because I haven't read it, but apparently there's a murder and something goes on where she can taste it. So yeah, very excited to read that. What's coming up this week? So on the podcast on Wednesday, got another wonderful guest. Oh, thank you for all the nice comments about Tim Spoor and his interview last week. It was lovely to be like back in this pattern again of these rambling podcasts. Oh, they're only supposed to be 10 minutes and already I'm way over that. That's what happens when the coffee isn't kicked in. So yeah, the pattern of these rambling podcasts on a Monday and then a guest on a Wednesday. Thank you for all the lovely comments about Tim. Isn't he wonderful? Support queerwell.org.uk. This week on the podcast, my guest is amazing, Saba Ali. And Saba is currently the chair of Stop Conversion Practices and is doing amazing work. Fantastic activism around just this coalition of people who are doing amazing behind the scenes stuff to get conversion practices finally banned. And Saba is so much more than that. We have an incredibly wonderful, beautiful, thoughtful conversation about how Saba got to this place, what brought her to here. So you can see that on Wednesday. This Saturday coming, 13th, I'll be at Queer Britain Museum interviewing my friend Layla McKay, who has recently just published this wonderful book called The Queer Bookshelf. As you can see, I've been making notes to talk to Layla about. There's a lot, and I'm still not quite finished marking it all up. But we're going to be having a conversation about this fantastic book, which on one hand, you could describe it as a book about books. It's really a fantastic compendium of the queer canon, but it's so much more than that. And this is why there's so many notes, because Layla tells the story of our community through the written word. So many things I learned from reading this book. It's incredibly moving, actually, as well as a fantastic resource. So that if you want to work out what's my next read, it's probably going to be in here. So Layla and I are going to be at Queer Britain on Saturday. There's tickets available. You can get them through Outsavvy. If I knew how to do it, I would put the link here, but I don't know yet how to do that. I might work it out in the next 10 minutes. I might not. So yeah, a lot going on. Happy Pride month. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being with me as I work my way through waking up on a Monday morning. Maybe this is the new format. Maybe this is it. Stick on my pajamas and sit behind the microphone, or maybe not. But anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And we will see you on Wednesday with the wonderful Saba.